is dog food. Dog food? Are you nuts or something? Why should my wife make dog food? We haven't even got a dog.
Well, one of my favorite shows, The Honeymooners, you might remember an episode where Ralph Cramden was literally eating dog food and then presented his boss with it, saying, what a great invention. Well, let me tell you about a real-life Mitch Felderhoff who literally ate dog food for 30 days. Now, I'm sorry, Mitch, if the comparison to Ralph offends you, but I just think it's so funny to meet a real-life person who's eating dog food on a consistent basis. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me and not offended at all.
So tell me, why you run Muenster Foods, right? Is that correct? Muenster's milling company. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I own a Muenster Milling Company, and we're a fourth-generation family-owned animal food producer. And the industry is really, really big, and we're really, really small. And there's a lot of bad information with a lot of dollars behind it out there. And so
Sure.
for us to make sure we're educating our customers the right way, sometimes we got to get a little crazy. And I thought, what better way to do it than to eat our own dog food and just show that we believe in what we're doing.
Well, tell us about that experiment. How did that go, and what was the purpose of it?
Yeah, so it went well. It was interesting. I don't miss eating dog food every day for sure. It for 30 days, all I ate was dog food, no sauces, no seasonings, spices, no alcohol, no coffee. I ended up losing 30 pounds in the process. Triglycerides dropped by 70%, cholesterol dropped in half, blood sugar dropped by about 20%. So overall, my health skyrocketed, and in the end of it, I had a lot better understanding, honestly, of what we did as a company. And, it really encouraged us to take more of an approach of what's it like to be the dog when we create a food.
And what did you find? Like, what was the results of it?
So essentially, we learned that, we probably feed our dogs too much and too often. And a big part of dropping the weight I did was because I wasn't encouraged to eat. It was dog food. It didn't taste great, right? So, at the end of the day, if we back off what we're feeding our pets just a little bit, we're going to see a dramatic difference in their health in a short amount of time, because 60% of pets are obese. They're following the same path that we are as people. And probably because the biggest pet food manufacturers are the biggest culprits in making people obese, with companies like Mars and Nestle that are the biggest.
Right.
Candy are also the biggest producers of pet food.
Well, so does it agitate you, or what is it like when you see this Blue Ribbon now, who's had this ad campaign out the last couple months? You need to go with us or whatever. Like, do you feel like people should find a better option than the ones they're seeing on TV right now?
Yeah, I mean, like there are a lot of good dog foods out there. Not everyone is just doing it for a buck, but I do think you've got to look at the ingredient label and see what's really in it. So flip the bag over, and if they use generic words like animal fat, it's really hard to know what animal that came from, because in the end of the day, it's whatever was cheapest that day. A lot of foods are just overloaded with grain and gluten and corn gluten meal and just cheap proteins, and so really digging down and finding out, like, where does the dog food come from?
Right.
Does the company make it themselves? And do they know what they're putting in it? And do they believe in it? And at the end of the day, that's why I ate it for 30 days, is because I do believe in what we do.
Let's talk about the animal's stomach when they get this food. I'm sure these different products, they get processed differently, right? So would you say your product processes a little better than others, or a lot better than others? Well, how do you guys make sure that process goes well?
Yeah, I mean, look, our food is going to be much closer to what the dog is designed to eat. And dogs were designed to eat diets lower in carbohydrates, higher in protein, and higher in fats. And anytime you get a food closer to what that dog was designed to have, it's going to be easier for them to digest it. They're going to pull more nutrients from it, and they're going to have a boosted immune system and a healthier response to it, which means they're going to get sick less and ultimately live longer.
Well, I brought you on because this is also, as much as a serious story, it's a funny story too. So tell us any funny moments you had in the 30 days eating this. And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, when we would go to restaurants, because I didn't want the family to have to suffer through this, so we would still go eat. We'd still go eat lunch or go eat dinner every now and then out to eat. Back when restaurants were open, and I would pull out a bag of dog food and eat it. And got quite a few questions from people walking by. The kids had fun throwing dog food in my mouth, and that was entertaining. And I had to come up with creative ways to eat some of it. So we make a meal topper, and where we take the freeze dried meat and we grind it up into a powder. We add a supplemental process to it, and when I shook that up, I put it in a shaker bottle with water and tried to drink it, and I didn't have one of those shaker springs.
Oh.
Okay. And so when I went to drink it, there was a dry clump in it, and it actually kind of got stuck in my throat.
Oh, shoot.
And almost threw it all right up. So it was pretty hard to get that down. But at the end of the day, everyone enjoyed watching that video quite a bit.
Well, I know you put this in video form, so we'll talk about that. But family, friends, what was their reaction when you said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it for 30 days and then follow through with it?
Pretty much everyone thought I was a little nuts, and rightly so. I'm kind of an out loud thinker, so if I have an idea, it just comes out, and that idea probably happened as I was saying it. And so I kind of said it, and the reaction I got from people was, "That's totally nuts and dumb, but I think it's actually a pretty good idea." And when I saw that people actually thought, "Wow, that's not a terrible idea." Mm-hmm. I decided to run with it, and I told more and more people, and eventually I had told enough people that I was going to do it that I had to. Wow. And so there was no choice but to do it.
Did the quarantine inspire this? I got to ask, was this like a quarantine project?
No, so I actually did this back in January.
Okay.
And so we had collected a bunch of footage and decided to turn it into a documentary, and oddly enough, plenty of people were sitting at home, and we thought, let's put something out for people to watch that isn't related to all the depressing news.
No, and I've got to ask you this, though. So how is Texas doing right now? How's your family doing?
Oh, we're doing well. It's really, really hot. I think it got up to almost 106 degrees today. Whew. And so we're avoiding the heat as much as possible, and we're ready for October to get here. That's kind of what we're hanging on to.
4 generations. That's pretty remarkable. How did this whole company start? And I'm guessing all the lines of all the generations have had that passion for the food, for animal food.
Yeah, so it started in 1932. My great-grandfather was a sharecropper, and a bunch of the local farmers needed a place to go with the grain because it was that or drive several hours with it. So they actually sponsored him, and he was able to borrow money from them, and he built a flour mill. And we did flour mill for several years, and it transitioned into livestock feed. We made dairy feed. Used to be a lot of dairies in the area. And then when the dairy consolidation took place and all went to, Wisconsin and California, we were kind of sitting there with nothing to do. And so my dad converted it to a pet food plant back in the 80s. Wow. And then we've been making pet food ever since.
And you guys are mainstream. I think I saw some of your food sold in Petco and elsewhere. Is that right?
No, we're not. We're not in the big box stores. We try to work with the independents and other family-owned stores and support them. And then we also we are on e-commerce, and so you can buy our food online. So,
well, Mitch, obviously, every economy, every business seems to be hurting. So, would you say releasing this video of you eating the dog food might have helped keep the business open during the COVID lockdown, or were you guys pretty okay before?
I don't know if it was that significant. I think it was really just something that was more entertaining for our customers to watch, and hopefully just kind of provide something kind of light to watch. And we've weathered the storm pretty well. We didn't let go of any employees. We put them all to work, and we just we got creative, created separate shifts, and put hours staggering between the shifts so that we didn't have employees crossing over, and could always have a healthy team, and spent a lot more time cleaning than we did in the past.
Mitch, you grew up around this. So what was it like growing up? I'm guessing you're a dog enthusiast to begin with.
Yeah, no, I love dogs. Growing up, and it was fun. I used to spend most of my time at trade shows with my dad handing out samples. So from the time I've been 5 or 6, I've been trying to sell dog food.
Wow. And do you have dogs of your own, and do you feed them Munster Mill? I guess you do, right?
I do, yeah. No, I have one yellow lab. We lost our 15-year-old 2 weeks ago,
Mm.
but yeah, all they eat is Munster, always have, and they're actually eating basically just all of our freeze dried only right now.
Some of these commercials, now that you mention it, when you see them, they almost make the people seem like they don't do enough research on the foods themselves. Would you say that's accurate? Could people be doing better research on their food?
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of those things that a lot of people just take the advice from the veterinarian. And not to downplay veterinarian, but they typically only have about 3 hours of nutrition training in school. And most veterinarian clinics now are actually owned by Mars,
Mm.
which is the biggest pet food manufacturer in
So
the
where are
world.
they going to push them to, right? I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, and so they happen to own, I think, 1,600 vet clinics, and it's real easy for them to push them towards their food. And they're not as worried about Mars isn't as worried about treating the dog from a health standpoint from nutrition, because they just assume prescribe the medicine, give a shot, do an x-ray, do a surgery. And I don't have anything to gain from a sick dog.
Right? No, you don't. Does PETA ever ruffle your feathers? Like, do you get agitated with them when they try and take a stance on these certain things?
I really don't, because as far as I'm concerned, PETA's got a mission, and I can't say that it's quite as clear as ours. Ours is to provide healthy nutrition for animals, and when you look at what does that mean, it means giving the dog what it's supposed to eat, and that is meat. And so, we have to find meat for dogs. Otherwise, what are they going to eat? They're going to eat junk, and it's going to make them sick. And so, it's pretty clear what we do and why.
Now you're in Texas, so how branched out are you guys? Are you known outside Texas? I imagine you are if you're being pitched nationally.
Well, we do a fair amount of private label, where we'll make food and put it in other people's bag, and we do that for small pet stores all over the country. And then we also, from an e-commerce standpoint, we've sent food to all 48 states down, contingent, and we've even shipped some to Alaska and Hawaii.
So even up here in New York, we get some of your Munster Mill foods.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, we send a decent amount of dog food up to New York.
Very cool. Maybe some of my listeners are familiar then, huh?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, we're very, very tiny, so there's a chance.
So, Mitch, you have a platform, and you have a YouTube channel. So in addition to all this fun that you've had during the 30 days of dog food, then that, I'm sure you've also focused on, hey, pets can possibly get COVID. Here's how you can prevent that from happening. Have you done any of that outreach also?
Well, so we looked into that early on, and we met with the veterinarians, and which their specialty is practicing medicine, right? And the veterinarians have had very little concern about the pets having COVID. Their main concern is it's the same as people, right? It's just practice good hygiene. And so, wash the dog's bowl, give it a bath, give it a shower. And, if the goal is to not go hugging a bunch of other people and high-fiving right now, then probably not a good idea to let your dog jump all over them either.
Sure,
so,
that's a great point. I mean, when I heard it was transmissible to begin with, I was a little bit like, what are they saying right now?
Yeah, they thought that maybe dogs could carry it and transmission it, but it's not this strand. So I think there's 10 or 20 different strands of coronavirus, and so there is a coronavirus that dogs carry, but it's nothing like the one that's going through people right now.
So I should not be afraid if I see a dog walking to still pet it, right? Because I've been a little wary of that, to be honest.
No, you've got nothing to worry about in my mind.
Mitch, do you ever deal with the big cats, the big animals like tigers or lions? Do you ever do those outreach as well?
Years ago, we actually used to make some big cat food for a guy that was on Netflix recently. And
wow.
Yeah, we would make
Tiger King himself.
Tiger King. Yeah, we used to make a giant kibble that was about that big around, and that was probably 15 years ago.
Wow. And now, how was he work? Did you work with him personally, or?
Not really. He did have a pet store in Arlington, and we used to sell some pet food to him then. And yeah, he was always a very charismatic character, but not quite to the level that the rest of the world saw.
So do you get wrapped up in that as a food provider, or even just an animal lover? Like, oh, what is Carol Baskin doing with Tiger King, or do you focus on making the foods for your pets?
I mean, we focused on making food for the pets, but we did have a little fun. You know, we all watched it and thought it was pretty funny. I think everyone was looking for anything humorous to watch back in
Oh
March.
my gosh, you're not kidding. And he really lit up the Netflix skyline, didn't he there?
Yeah, no, he was totally nuts, but he brought a lot of people back off the ledge, I'm sure.
So what is your well, this is the other thing I'm seeing on TikTok sometimes too, is longevity. You see pets that are in their 20s now and some in their late teens. How is that possible? How can we make that a possibility for our pets?
So a lot of it is, it's all, you know, it comes back to diet, right? And taking care of the animal when they're young. Exercise is so important. And a lot of people talk about their dog being a couch potato. Well, it's a couch potato because you let it. And
Right.
if you get it up and take it walking, then, hey, you have something completely different there. So I think a lot of it's related to just honestly a good diet and exercise.
And do you have any cats? Do you make cat food as well, or mainly dog?
So we do have a cat. We are coming out with our first cat food that we've not had a cat food in probably 5 or 6 years. We have a cat here at our house. Her name is Sprinkles Sparkles Felderhoff. And
Okay. Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, we got a 3, 6, and 8-year-old boy, and they named her. And they just she's a kitten that we adopted, and they just chase her all over the place.
And I'm sure she chases them too. So what made you get back into the cat food? Was it adopting your cat?
Honestly, we've had just so many people asking us for a cat food. So we've got a lot of people that really, really love our dog food. They trust us, and they've, been asking for a cat food for probably, 8 to 10 months. And so we've been kind of saying no, no, no. And finally we've got enough people asking that it's like, if the goal is to help people, let's make a cat food. Let's help them out.
Do you guys make it with sort of like a scientific approach, or how do you guys how do you guys work? Who do you work with to make the food?
Yeah, so we've got a PhD nutritionist who's got about 30 years experience in the industry. We have another one that's got almost 45 to 50 years. And so we bounce back and forth between both of the nutritionists, and each nutritionist checks off the other one's work. And then we do some feeding trials, and then we feed it to our animals, and then we release it. So everything is done by science first and what's right for the animal before we manufacture it.
Let's talk ground level for a minute, because you just inspired another question. I never script these things. It just comes to the top of my head. But let's say you have a family that's freaking out because their animal can't keep something down for a number of days. How do you calm that family? Like, what do you tell them?
Well, the first thing we do is tell them to pull food and water for 24 hours at least.
Okay.
The best thing you can do is just pull everything, because the digestive system needs a chance to rest. So if you look back to dogs and cats genetically, they're hunters. And if they didn't kill something that day, they typically didn't eat. Mm-hmm. And so, they're wired to give their digestive tract a break, because if you continue to eat and eat and eat, if a dog is throwing up or having diarrhea, it's telling you that their stomach is in distress. And so just like when we get sick, I don't know about you, but if I have a stomach bug, I may not really eat much for 2 or 3 days at all.
I got to be honest with you. This is coming at a perfect time, this conversation, because I literally have an endoscopy that I have to get to, and I have to do a redo. This is the most craziest thing. I have to do a redo from yesterday. Anyway, I can't now eat or drink for today, and I'm a little rattled by that. But I was going to say, can dog food help the human system? I mean, this is what I'm kind of wondering now.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but what I would do is taking a break from food and water, it gives your digestive system a chance to rebuild. And the microbes are able to recolonize, multiply, and basically get to a point where they can handle food again, and then just slowly reintroduce the food. Don't go back to the normal amount, because when you're sick, you don't go right back to the normal amount of food. You start with probably a half to 3/4 what you were typically eating, because your stomach shrank. And so you've got to feed the dog. You don't just look at the instructions and dump it in the bowl.
How do you make sure your food is regulated properly? Like, how do you guys, are you under federal regulation as well as a business and a dog food company?
Oh yeah. The FDA comes in and checks us out. They actually came in during the 30 days of dog food in case people got the idea to start eating it themselves. And so they were there probably on like week 2 of this thing, and they spent 48 hours with us. They did a real thorough inspection. We've got a QA department where we've got an FSMA certification, HACCP certified. we spend a lot of time on quality control and testing and making sure that before we send food out, it is safe.
And I guess testing would be if like a dog gets sick, then that formula didn't work or something to that effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, everything is done, on the front end, probably 6 to 9 months before a product hits the market.
Sure.
And so we know if it's going to work or not before we send it out.
That's very cool. So
Yeah.
now you got me thinking, did people actually try this as you were posting the videos or no?
We had a few people call us and say, "Hey, I want to try it. Send me 12 bags so I can eat it."
Wow.
Yeah, which just means they had a bunch of dogs at home trying to score some free food. A lot of employees would sit down and eat some dog food with me. On the last day, the day 30 of this, we had a meal and an event at the local shelter, and we paid for adoption fees for 30 animals to get a home. And I had 10 people or 11 people that sat down and ate with me.
So obviously people thought this was funny when it hit the news wire, but look at that. You did something good with it. Did that get a lot of publicity as well, or just the fact that you did this?
Yeah, no, it actually got quite a bit of publicity, and that was really the goal, because we were starting to get a lot of PR out of it and lots of interviews. And we just kind of thought, hey, how can we turn this into something good for some people that need it? And so we donate all the food to Operation Kindness. We feed all of their animals all year long for free, 100%. And so we just thought, let's share some of this with them, and let's try and get some news out and find some animals, some forever homes. And sure enough, we did.
So are you on a new topic? Because this obviously started trending again. I saw this recently. So what's new in the Felderhoff world that brings this to light again?
So we just released the documentary. So it took several months to get that thing pieced together. We don't have a $1 million budget to build things, and so we got to scrap together and get lean, and
Yep.
It takes a little longer. And we finally got it pieced together, and honestly, there was no purpose in releasing this when news was at its peak with all the hysteria that's been going on, and we thought there's a nice little window there between all the hysteria and probably sports starting back up in school, and thought
Sure.
that's our window of opportunity. Let's try it.
And so where can people find this documentary?
So you can find it on our Facebook page. Just look up Muenster Milling or facebook.com/Muenster Pet Foods. If you go to YouTube and type in 30 days of dog food or man eats dog food for a month, you'll find it.
Okay.
And then you can also go to 30daysofdogfood.com, and it'll be right there at the top of that.
And it sounds like, Mitch, based on how we're talking here, you didn't care what people thought. You were on this mission. And got to ask, do you think God, because I'm not sure if he plays a role, but do you think God called you to this mission as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, our goal is to do good, and to, we've been around for 88 years. We're not trying to just come in and flip a business. We want to provide good jobs and provide good, healthy food for animals. And so in order to do that, we need to always be picking up new customers and selling food. And so, when you're out praying about it and trying to figure out what do I do next, the ideas, in my mind, they don't just come to me. God gives you ideas to take advantage of your gifts, just like you've got a podcast. It's just because you're good at doing a podcast. So, that idea didn't come from you. It was put there by someone, and you just happen to have the gifts that were given to take advantage of it. So yeah, I do believe that God inspired this. All
right. So did you have any doctoral advice as you were doing this, and doctoral help as you were doing this?
Yeah. So just going to the doctor, it was look, I've not seen anyone try this before. I do think you should be careful. But if I'm okay with it, I don't endorse it. But if you get sick, call me and we'll help.
And did you get sick at all?
No, I didn't have any sickness. I did have one day where I overate a little bit.
Okay.
Because we were shooting film at the house, and I ate basically my full meal's worth. And then the documentary crew looked and said, "Hey, our batteries were dead on the camera. We got to reshoot that."
Oh my gosh.
And so we reshot it. And then they looked and said it happened again. And so we reshot, which means I ate again and again and again. And so I ended up eating like 3.5 pounds of meat. And at about 2 a.m. that morning, I probably could have beat Usain Bolt to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. That's intense. But hey, that's part of the journey, right?
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like anything. When we put not just dog food, but anything in our body that's foreign, it's going to react to it. So it's kind of a normal reaction, I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And it's just overdoing it. So it was too much at once.
So why Muenster? See, when you say Muenster, I think of like Muenster cheese, but what was the reasoning behind the naming?
So we are in the little town called Muenster. And so it was one of those deals back in 1932. Everything got named after the town it was in, right? So there was Muenster Lumber, Muenster Building Supply, Muenster Concrete, Muenster Oil, Muenster Dog Food.
You must be super proud that you can make a 4-generation business continue even through these times.
Yeah, no, we are. We're excited to carry on that legacy, and just, if there's one thing that we were taught growing up, it was that you don't quit. And, if we keep fighting and keep carrying through, then eventually we'll make it to the other side.
I got to ask, it looks like your background's from The Office. So big Office fan, I gather?
I am, yeah. No, I keep that as my background no matter what, pretty much. But yeah, huge Office fan. So
I guess you're like the Michael Scott, or what character would you say you are?
I do get compared to him a lot. I'm a huge fan of the Nard dog.
Okay. See, I didn't follow it that closely, so you're throwing me off there. But I'm a big Jim fan. Let me just put out there. I love Jim and Pam. That whole story is just incredible. But no, that series is legendary, and they've actually had some reunion stuff going on too, which is cool. So that's cool. And I guess you got to have fun, and clearly you have fun, and you want to try this. So what ideas are percolating now for Mitch Felderhoff?
So what we are starting now, actually, because of this 30 days of dog food, I got really bored eating the same thing every day.
Okay.
And so we're actually we looked at kibble and decided it's gone as far as it can go. Like there's nothing else you can do to it. It's round and it's brown at the end of the day. And so we've decided to start putting stuff on the outside of it, because I thought if I ever have to do this again, I'm going to make it taste better. And so now we coat it with coconut oil. We'll put bacon fat on it. We can put freeze-dried raw meats, probiotics, all kinds of good stuff. So we have started the custom kibble project, the custom coated kibble project. And so basically if you have a dog with an issue, we can go in and match it with a solution from a functional standpoint that will actually help the dog. So we've got a whole line of functional meal toppers coming out that have glucosamine and chondroitin in them, CBD, and skin and coat type products.
Mitch, do you ever find, and that's very cool. It reminds me of like the Kong, where you put the peanut butter inside. You're like inverting that and putting it on the outside now. Exactly. So, Mitch, the serious question before we wrap up, is there a shortage? Like, do you find that dog food also has the potential to be wasted that we aren't talking about?
Possibly. I mean, I think most people are pretty good about not wasting a bunch of dog food. If what we do see a lot is if people have extra dog food, or say their dog passes, or their dog didn't like it, most of the time people do a pretty good job of getting that to a shelter. And that's so great. When we ship food out, if the customer's unhappy with it, or they wanted to try something else, or we ship the wrong bag, we typically just say, hey, why don't you go drop it off at the local shelter? We'll replace the bag for you, and try to put that food towards some good of feeding an animal that needs it.
Mitch, you're doing a lot of great work, I could tell. And please come back and tell us how this new project comes along and what we can do here at Alex Garrett Podcast and help.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me, and enjoyed the time as well.
Any Twitter handle, anywhere we can find you guys?
I don't. I'm not on Twitter. It just seems like a hallway that people yell down. So we are on Facebook and on Instagram. I think I'm that dog food guy. That dog food guy.
You'll definitely get tagged in this video. So very cool.
And then in TikTok, we're going to start doing a bunch of TikTok videos, and it's the dog food guy.
Very cool. Well, follow back. I will definitely be on the lookout. Mitch, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and God bless you on your endeavors.
Hey, Alex, thank you so much, and God bless yourself.
I'm Alex Garrett. We'll talk to you soon. This was